You can't even imagine the level of trauma and drama that is Rory's life. The way Rory turned into a werewolf will blow your mind. And her hopes and dreams are something you totally wouldn't expect. You know that your support is the only reason why I'm able to make these videos. And all I ask is for you to like and subscribe so that other people can find this video too. Because I do very in-depth research on Sims lore and bring it all in a nice little package for you to enjoy. Please, I beg of you, just like and subscribe, please. Did you do it? It will just take 2 seconds, come on. Okay, thank you. I'll assume you did it. Rory Oaklow was not born a werewolf, and she didn't come from a secret supernatural bloodline either. And she didn't even get bitten by another werewolf, nope. So how did she turn into a werewolf then? Well, here's the most wild story of a Sims werewolf and her transformation. So buckle up, it's going to be a heck of a ride. Rory was just a regular schmegular human living in Brindleton Bay. It's a town that comes with a dogs and cats pack. She actually comes from an environment that has nothing to do with the supernatural world. Before coming here, I'd never met a spellcaster. I was always around normie Sims, born and raised in a standard normie family. It's strange to think about it now. I wouldn't want to go back to that. So why doesn't she want to go back? I mean, I get it that regular humans are way less exciting than werewolves or spellcasters, but what was so horrible about her life before? Well, let me tell you, it was horrible. She doesn't like to talk about her past, but if you nag her enough, she will reveal what happened. I don't like to talk about my past. I was bit by a dog that had somehow contracted lycanthropy. It doesn't usually happen, so it must have been a freak accident. I was with my family at the vet in Brindleton Bay. That's where I grew up. The day after my first transformation, my parents kicked me out. They didn't know how to handle the new me. Wow, so basically Rory was at the vet clinic when one day she just got bit by a sick dog. The dog sickness was called lycanthropy. But what is it really? It's a disease that is also called werewolf syndrome. You might think that the Sims are just being silly with this and made it up, but actually in real life, this disease exists. A dog can get werewolf syndrome in real life too, and it happens through contaminated food that is poorly made in a factory. It causes personality changes like aggression, howling, hyperactivity, and even seizures. And the dog's fur grows in weird patches too. This is extremely rare, and the dog usually heals. And no, in real life, they cannot give werewolf syndrome to a human. If you get bit by a sick dog like this, you just get bit by a dog. It will hurt, but you won't get the disease. But in The Sims, this can lead you to turn into a werewolf. Imagine that. One day, you're just worried about your homework, living a normal life as a kid, with your parents in a cute town. And the next day, your parents kick you out and look at you like a monster. So yeah, Rory's parents literally kicked her out, and she had no backup plan. She ended up in Moonwood Mill where Kristopher found her. Kristopher Volkov is a gentle werewolf who has a lot of self-control over his fury, and his goal in life is to help other werewolves find that control. We spoke about this werewolf daddy in a previous video that you can watch after this one. He is like a father to everyone, trying his best to create a safe place for werewolves and humans too. Chris didn't just find Rory and offer her a place to stay. He actually adopted her as his own daughter. But things didn't end up working out again for Rory, because as kind as Kristopher is, he has a lot of rules. And these rules include being self-disciplined and not showing your werewolf form to human sim. And Rory, she didn't do well at all trying to live up to those standards. Just look at her room. Kristopher still keeps her room the way she left it. It's covered in claw and punch marks, like she's trying to decorate the walls with her fists. Kristopher had this whole idea that being a werewolf is something you need to manage, but Rory strongly disagrees. So they ended up arguing about this all the time. And finally, Rory couldn't take it anymore and she decided to leave. She realized that maybe she doesn't need to be fixed. Maybe she just needs a different pack. Kristopher took me in. We don't agree on a lot of things these days, but I'll always remember his kindness. Rory tried to live under Kristopher's rules, but her fury was not something she could just namaste away. She actually calls Kristopher's pack boring and vows to never lead the way that he does. Trust me, I'll never lead the Wildfangs to become some singing circus Circle Friendship Force or whatever. We're here to dominate the werewolf world. But being boring is not the only reason why Rory left Kristopher's pack. She genuinely believes that she is fighting for something bigger, something beyond herself. You might think that Rory left because she's just a rebellious person with no self-control, but she doesn't see it that way at all. When Rory formed her own pack, the Wildfangs, she became the alpha, and also the only member of the pack at the time. Lou Howell did join the pack later, but first he got rejected by Kristopher's pack. I made a video about him as well, so you can watch that one afterwards to find out why he got rejected. Rory brought with her a whole new philosophy into the werewolf world. Fury is not a failure, it's potential. And Rory refuses to see herself as a victim. Remember, being a werewolf isn't some sentimental burden, it's a gift. Sure, you gotta be willing to put in the work, but that doesn't make it less of a gift. Just better yourself and get out there into the world. I'd never let a single member of the Wildfangs get away with being some sad sack know-it-all. Each and every member has to have fight in him. She is changing the way everyone made her feel about being a werewolf. They made her feel as if she is a burden to others. Her human family made her feel like a monster. Even Kristopher made her feel like an animal meant to be tamed. She had enough, and now she's taking back her destiny. No more spiraling, no more shame, no more hiding. For Rory, a werewolf's fury is not something dysfunctional or something that is meant to be hidden away. It is something to be proud of. And she refuses to be sad about who she is ever again. And her human family really messed her up because now she doesn't trust humans at all. She actually calls them normies, and she will never allow a human to be part of her pack. Sure, normies are great, but they're not my pack. They can never be. That's fine. You're close with the people you connect with. You run with the ones you trust, you know? That right there proves that Rory has some big trust issues towards humans. And honestly, based on what she's gone through, that's totally fair. She's not trying to fit in anymore. She's not trying to prove herself to normies or any other Sims that just don't get it. She's looking for connections, for loyalties, for her pack. And if someone doesn't get that, that's okay. But don't expect her to tone it down for your comfort. But what about Jacob? Jacob and Rory grew up together under Kristopher's roof. He adopted them both, and he is basically like a brother to her. And Jacob stayed with Kristopher, and he is still in his pack. Even after all the pack drama and disagreements, they are still family. Because Rory didn't walk away out of hate, she walked away because she needed to build something else. But she never stopped loving her brother. She mentions that we may not be in the same pack anymore, but I love my little brother Jacob. Always have, always will. And I think the Moonwood Collective suits him well. It just didn't work for me. So Rory fully recognizes that there is no good or bad way to live as a werewolf. It's a personal choice. It's just that the values of the Moonwood Collective didn't fit her. But did you ever notice that Jacob's last name is Volkov, like Kristopher Volkov, and Rory stayed Rory Oaklow? Why is that? She actually tells us why. Even as a kid, I had a strong sense of individuality. Yeah, Kristopher is my dad, but I've always been Rory Oaklow. I'm not going to change my name for some elder werewolf. Jacob wanted to. That's his decision. I support that. Like, this girl was literally kicked out of her birth family. Then she found a new one, got adopted into it, and left it by her own choice. And she still has the confidence to say, I am Rory Oaklow, period. She respects Kristopher and she loves Jacob. She understands his choice to take the last name Volkov. But Rory doesn't want to carry anyone else's legacy. She's building her own because at the end of the day, she's not defined by who raised her, who bit her, who supports her, who doesn't. She's defined by the life that she will live. Kristopher's pack is the type that gardens, reads books, and puts extra effort to avoid scaring humans. Then you have the werewolves like Greg. He's a werewolf that has no pack, lives alone, and warns other Sims to not approach his area. He is always in his werewolf form and spends his time running around town, terrorizing everyone with his fury. But Rory fits somewhere in between. She still wants to be a werewolf and embraces her powers, but she doesn't want to be a loner with no pack like Greg. And she doesn't want to avoid scaring humans like Kristopher just for the sake of avoiding who she really is. I mean, she's not trying to scare them on purpose or anything. Rory actually makes a very interesting metaphor comparing the ocean to werewolf fury. The Moonwood Collective wants to avoid it. Greg is drowning in it, and the Wildfangs want to go for a swim. Sure, it's it's not 100% safe, but can you imagine living your whole life by the water and never taking a dip? She started this pack not just to prove a point, but also to have a safe space for werewolves like her, who want to learn how to use their powers instead of containing them or completely drowning in them. So what is Kristopher thinking about all of this? Well, he is not thrilled. He thinks that Rory's behavior is giving werewolves a bad name. Kristopher's pack is fighting really hard to fix the bad reputations that werewolves have. So he is very bothered by the fact that Rory is undoing all their hard work. I'm sure they think all their posturing and brash statements make them seem cool, but all it really does is generate more fear of werewolves. People are already very scared when they see werewolves, and for good reason. Werewolves can be super intimidating, and when they're in fury mode, they will break things. Kristopher even admits that he has arguments about this with Rory. I mean, she left for a reason, right? But he is actually very worried that she will end up like the scary loner werewolf, Greg. I've had arguments with Rory around our differing philosophies. Part of me is happy if she's happy. Part of me is afraid the Wildfang way is dangerous. I don't want an entire pack to turn out like Greg and lead others down that path. Rory knows how all of this looks. She knows that it looks like she's going through a rebellious phase for the sake of being difficult. But that's not true at all. She's doing all of this because it's necessary for her. She's not afraid to turn like Greg, and she doesn't believe she will. Greg is a lone wolf who doesn't have a pack. He bites humans when he goes into rampage mode. Kristopher thinks that if I keep heading down the path I'm on, I'll turn out like Greg. He can't be serious. I'm nothing like Greg. I'm in control. I just don't shy away from the fury inside me. I use it. Sure, it's a difficult balancing act, but I'm killing it. And Rory is not like Greg because she wants to be a leader. She's fully dedicated to her pack and the cause. When I became leader of a pack, I realized I was going to have to open myself to learning about what it means to be a leader each day. There's always a lot of pressure to care for the well-being of those who follow me, but I want to do right by the pack. And Rory is a great leader. She is ambitious and self-assured. And she trains a lot too, but not just her body, her brain as well. This is where people underestimate her. They think that Rory is all muscle, all instinct. She's strong, yes. Her fitness is nearly maxed out. But that's not even half the story. She also plays violin, dances, knits, and she is a freelance programmer. Her aspiration in the game is to be a Renaissance Sim, meaning that her #1 goal is to learn about various things and also teach others. She wants it all, master of many things, not just punching others. Renaissance Sim want to level at least 6 skills to level 8 and reach level 3 in at least 3 different careers. Really a jack of all trades. And the reward for achieving this aspiration is the ability to write manuals in your learned skills and to pass this information to others. So Rory doesn't just want to learn more, she also wants to lead more. And she left the collective and started her own pack not because she was rebelling. It was about becoming what she needed to be for the community. She's preparing for something big. For centuries, werewolves and vampires have been in a conflict. Their story goes very deep, and we will cover their story in another video, but Rory, she is a part of a new era, and she is also following in the footsteps of ancient werewolves. She knows what the vampires did and what they're capable of. Her whole training and pack purpose is that if the vampires try to start a war again, yes, again, her pack will be ready for it, because she doesn't believe that Kristopher is going to be able to defend the community. The original werewolves didn't deny their inner beasts. They embraced the moon and its magic, and they used it for good, keeping the vampires from taking over. I don't think the Moonwood Collective would ever be strong enough today to take on the vampires if they started another conflict. The Wildfangs would. This woman is ready to throw hands. What would I do if I ever met Vlad Stroud? I'd fight him, of course. He needs to know who the top dog around here is. And it's not going to be some ancient evil vampire. Like, imagine Vladislaus creeping around, doing his whole I'm an ancient immortal vampire thing, and Rory is just like, cool story, grandpa, now catch these claws. And this is the thing, Rory is not out there trying to convert everyone into a rage-fueled warrior like her. She's not even saying you have to be like her. She's saying be whatever you are. Just don't try to change her, because respect is a two-way street. Just because I'm all about embracing the inner beast doesn't mean I'm opposed to some someone seeking a cure. Be true to you. That's what's important. Just don't try to make me take it. And you might be curious, what about her love life? Well, werewolves do have a concept called fated mates. It's when two werewolves fall in love and they are mates forever. But in true Rory fashion, she's not out here letting fate control her. I've never had a fated mate before, and even if fate decided to put me on the list, I don't really subscribe to that being the end-all factor in who I end up with. I decide my fate. Because all her life, someone tried to control her, and she's so done. It's not that she doesn't believe in love, she just doesn't believe in destiny controlling who she loves. And honestly, I think that makes her even more romantic that way. Because if Rory chooses you, it's not because the moon told her to, it's because she decided to. So yeah, add fate resistant to her list of titles. And yes, Rory is immortal. She has the werewolf immortality trait. She has no desire to quit existing as a werewolf. I learned the secrets to immortality early. Most werewolves don't, but I was able to by truly embracing who I am inside. I don't hide, and because of that, I'm more in tune with my inner wolf. Rory straight up said, I figured out how to live forever and be 100% myself. She found a way to cheat nature by leaning all the way into her wild side. That's powerful, that's poetic, that's main character energy right there. In this life, Rory is a werewolf leader, but in another life, Rory would have liked to be a mermaid. If I wasn't a werewolf, I'd want to be a mermaid. Surprised? Don't be. They also have a connection to the moon, you know, with the tides and all that. Did you know mermaids can stay out of the water longer during a full moon? You never really know if Rory is joking or being profound, but I decided to try it. I gave Rory the werewolf cure and then made her eat the mermaid kelp. And she turned into a mermaid and she looked like this. She ended up looking very Rory with a bright red tail, red lips, and graphic pink eyeliner. Love it. Just look at those abs. And by the way, you might not know this, but Rory actually has a pretty big back tattoo. It looks like a magical wolf in motion. In my humble sim historian detective opinion, I think that it represents her love for werewolves. It's a permanent reminder that she was born to run wild and free. She wears her werewolf powers very, very proudly. Rory doesn't lead a pack of gardeners like Kristopher. She leads fighters and survivors, wolves with scars and stories. She howls because it's in her bones, and nobody will take that away from her. She roams around town on all fours because it's honest, it's who she is. And she teaches others to stop apologizing for their powers. So no, Rory isn't peaceful or quiet, but she's true to herself. And in a world where she was told to conceal herself and become smaller, she stepped out from the hiding instead and became as big as she could get. So what do you think about Rory? Tell me in the comments. Subscribe for more Sims lore and drama so that you don't miss the next breakdown of some juicy Sims lore.